So I've asked a few friends what they thought about Resident Evil's new Netflix show, Infinite Darkness.
Ugh, it stinks.
But I thought I'd take a look for myself since I'm a huge RE fan, and I also did a ton of research for this video. Let's see here, Resident Evil 8 Ultra Bikini Jiggle Physics Costume. In this video, we'll be taking a deep dive into Resident Evil Infinite Darkness and asking the big question, why was this 4 25-minute episodes and not just one 2-hour movie? Actually, we'll be talking a lot about the ending and how this story connects to the greater Resident Evil universe. So grab your green herbs and dwindling supply of ammo, and make sure to like and subscribe. Seriously, only 3% of you are subscribed, because here we go.
Resident Evil.
The events of Infinite Darkness would never have occurred if it weren't for the Civil War in Panamstan. Way back in the year 2000, roughly 2 years after the events of Code Veronica, the US military sent troops into the small fictitious country under the pretense of spreading peace and democracy. Of course, nearby China doesn't take too kindly to this. They don't exactly like having a strong US military presence on their border. That's why 6 years later, when zombies invade the White House and one of America's subs is mysteriously destroyed, US Secretary of Defense Wilson is quick to blame the Chinese. That's because Wilson secretly wants a war between China and the US. As we learn throughout the series' 4 episodes, Wilson has been secretly working with a mysterious pharmaceutical company developing bioweapons. This company turns out to be Tricell, which you may remember as being the company responsible for the Plaga outbreak in Kujuju, the location where much of Resident Evil 5 is based. Wilson's plan is pretty insane. He purposely infects a group of US soldiers called the Mad Dogs and then blackmails them into doing his bidding by withholding the cure from them. You see, Wilson controls these things called inhibitors, which inhibit the growth of the virus within their bodies, and since he's the only one who has access to these inhibitors, these soldiers have to do what he says or they risk turning into mutated zombies. So Wilson uses the Mad Dogs as his personal covert ops group, allowing him to gain clout within the White House, eventually working his way up to Secretary of Defense. Just like Resident Evil 2, Infinite Darkness has 2 storylines, one of Leon Kennedy and Claire Redfield. Leon has been called by the president to look into a recent hack of one of the government's top secret servers, and the president trusts Leon. After all, it was Leon who saved his daughter, which play out in Resident Evil 4.
I knew you'd be fine if you landed on your butt.
Those events occur roughly 2 years before that of Infinite Darkness. Claire, on the other hand, works for a company called TerraSave. I kid you not, their motto is because Terre doesn't have to end with Orist. They're an NGO looking to help build schools and hospitals in war-torn regions like Panamstan. The last we saw of Claire chronologically was in Resident Evil Degeneration, which is set a year before the events of Infinite Darkness. Claire wants to get to the bottom of the mysterious outbreak that happened in Panamstan in 2000, an outbreak she believed was covered up just like the one she experienced in Raccoon City in 1998. This gets her tased and tied to a chair where the big baddie, Wilson, discusses his entire plan. It's kinda sad to see Claire Redfield relegated to damsel in distress when my experience with her in the games is that she's a total badass. We never get to see that in Infinite Darkness. Meanwhile, Leon teams up with Shenmei and Jason, who will later find out want to expose Wilson's plan. Shenmei's brother was infected with the virus while working as a soldier in Panamstan. He's currently being held in some sort of coma state by Shenmei's wealthy grandfather. Jason, on the other hand, was a former Mad Dogs member who can't stop talking about fear and terror.
Do you know where the root of terror comes from? Terrify, fear, 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 terror, fear, terror, fear, fear, terror, fear, terror, fear.
It's Shenmei's brother who holds the key to exposing Wilson's plan. Every infected Mad Dog member was embedded with a chip that recorded their vitals and combat data. This ties Wilson to the infected and is the proof they need to stop him once and for all. But Jason has tracked down Wilson to his underground lab and mutates into this creature before biting Wilson. Wilson will survive the encounter, only later to be given an inhibitor by that mysterious company, Tricell. We know that Tricell has links to Albert Wesker, so it's possible he may be secretly pulling the strings. Jason seems to be a lost cause. He thinks that by showing everyone what fear is, he'll stop tragedies like the one he experienced from ever happening again.
I will open their eyes to true terror. It's the only way to keep stop this tragedy from ever happening again!
He believes by exposing Wilson, it'll shock the world so that the tragedy that befell him and his team, as well as Panam Stan and Raccoon City, will never happen again, because it's only through fear that people will be terrified into action. Leon disagrees with this. At the end of the episode, in one of the very few scenes with both Claire and Leon, Claire asks Leon to hand over the chip. She wants to send it to all the newspapers to expose this huge bioweapon conspiracy. But in an interesting twist, Leon says,
No thanks, bro.
and this could serve two purposes. One, so that Leon can handle this on his own, setting up more seasons of the show, and two, to go against what Jason said. In the final episode, Jason tells Leon that even though Jason will die, it's too late. Leon will help the fear spread. If the news of this bioweapon conspiracy gets out, it's going to cause a tremendous amount of fear with World War implications. Imagine if China found out the US was experimenting with bioweapon super soldiers right next to its border. On the other hand, if Leon keeps the chip and takes matters into his own hands, he can potentially stop that. In essence, Leon wants to have his cake and eat it too. He wants to stop Tricell and Wilson while making sure the world doesn't panic. And now for a quick 30-second review. Did I like Resident Evil Infinite Darkness?
I don't ever remember being a part of your crappy script.
Not really. I felt Claire was totally underused, the storyline was predictable, and the villains were over-the-top cheesy, but you know, that's kind of the way with Resident Evil. At least in the games, you have the awesome gameplay to supplement the story, and I gotta be honest, there were times I was watching this and grabbed my PlayStation controller because I thought a boss fight was gonna happen. The new Resident Evil live-action show was just announced. I just hope they can fix some of this writing because this franchise is so near and dear to my heart. But what did you think of Resident Evil Infinite Darkness? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, everyone. Make sure to like and subscribe, and for more bad takes, you can always follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ThinkStoryYT. Until next time, remember, Daddy loves you very much.